Hi everyone, Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and iOS 18.5 has been out to the general public for 1 month. This is quite interesting as we haven't had an iOS 18.5.1. I'm going to talk about some features in iOS 18.5, give you the overall experience, battery life, as well as my Geekbench score. But I'm also going to talk about iOS 26 Beta 1, which is currently in beta, and that update has been out for about 5 days at this point. And whilst I'm not running the beta, I am still going to talk about what features are in that update, as well as talk about my overall experience for iOS 18.5. So let's start off with recapping some features that are in iOS 26 Beta 1. Now, iOS 26 is without a doubt one of the best updates to the iPhone. It brings this new clear look to app icons, and it brings a lot of enhancements to the iPhone. We have an updated control center, where it sort of brings some of the new liquid glass sort of redesign that is in iOS 26. Now, there is a way to turn off some of the sort of liquid glass while I'm not running the beta. The features where you can enable this still exist within iOS 18. You go to accessibility and you go to display and text size. And within display and text size, there is a reduced transparency. I do not like how this looks. I mentioned it in a video I did yesterday. As you can see, when you go into an app folder, it makes my wallpaper dark behind it. And when you pull up the control center, it adds like sort of a background around it. Again, I don't really like how this looks, but it can be helpful if you don't like the glass redesign that iOS 26 has within it. And there is also some features where we have an updated camera. Personally, I know a lot of people are going to love this update. It fixed the issue with the Photos app. How the Photos app was very messy in iOS 18, how you could scroll up to see everything. A lot of people want more simplicity, and iOS 26 fixed that issue. One thing that I'm absolutely happy that they brought was a floating tab bar in Safari. The early iOS 15 betas that had the floating tab bar, they brought that back in iOS 26 Developer Beta 1. They might do some updates to it here and there, but I hope they keep it like this all the way until September, when iOS 26 releases to the general public. Now, as far as my performance on iOS 18.5, I forgot to show this off in last week's video, I believe. But if we go into Apple Podcasts and we wait for it to load, everything loads up in here as it should. If we go into and we do some scrolling here, it loads up perfectly. If I go into the app library and we do some scrolling here, you can see there was a little bit of stutter in iOS 18.5. So let's try that again. If we go into the app library and we do some scrolling, everything loads up nice and quickly. If I go into settings and check my battery health, this is quite surprising. My battery health still has not dropped on this device. It's at 83%. Now, in iOS 26, I don't know if I screenshotted this or not. They have went ahead and updated the battery graph. Oh, I did take a screenshot of it. So in iOS 26, they updated the battery graph. So this will look completely different in iOS 26. And you also have battery intelligence for iPhones that support Apple Intelligence. But if I go into my battery health here and we take a look at it here, you can see that my battery health here, I have 1 hour and 27 minutes screen on time. I have 2 minutes of screen off time since I just started using this device. If I go to yesterday and take a look at the battery health, I have 7 hours, 38 minutes screen on, 11 minutes of screen off time. And that is on my iPhone 12 in product red. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my battery health on the iPad. On my iPad, if I go into my battery health and I show you guys my battery health on the iPad, I currently have 1 hour, 39 minutes screen on time, 1 minute screen off time. Yesterday, I've had 3 hours, 17 minutes screen on time and 12 minutes of screen off time. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my Geekbench score on my iPhone as well as my iPad, and I will share that in the video as well. Geekbench completed, and on my iPhone, I scored 2,074 for single core, 4,691 for multi-core. If I take a look at last week, I scored 2075 for single core, 4792 for multi-core. Taking a look at it on my iPad Air from 2020, I scored 2097 single core, 5081 for multi-core. And if we go into last week's results, I scored 2122 for multi-core, or single core rather, and 5188 for multi-core. As far as what's next from Apple, well, I think it's pretty obvious at this point because we know not to expect iOS 26 Beta 2 until not next week, but probably on June 23rd or June 24th. That is when we can expect iOS 26 Beta 2. By then, if I have my iPhone 14, I will install the public beta or Beta 2 on my iPhone 12. Only time will tell depending on when I get that device, as I'm not just going to put it on my main device and having no other device to use on a stable software. As I'm also thinking about putting it on my iPad after I've tested it for a week and put it on my iPhone. However, next week, probably on June 16th, and also that day is going to make 7 months since I've had my YouTube channel. I might do a live stream that day or a YouTube short, I'm not really sure. But that day, we can expect iOS 18.6 Beta 1. It's quite interesting that we still haven't had 18.6, but at the same time, it's definitely a repeat of last year around this time. How we got iOS 18 Beta 1, and then the next week after that, we got iOS 17.6 Beta 1. So we could see the same thing happen this year, where we get iOS 18.6 Beta 1, and I would not expect any new features this late in iOS 18. I would, however, expect it to give security updates to the iPhone XS, iPhone XS Max, and iPhone XR, which are unfortunately no longer supported with the major iOS 26. So if you have the iPhone XS, XS Max, and XR, unfortunately you won't be getting iOS 26, but you will be getting security updates on iOS 18.7 and maybe iOS 18.8. You will get security updates with those versions. As far as anything else from Apple, well, that's really it. iOS 18.5 has been out for a month. Experience has still been good this late in iOS 18.5. There hasn't been any bugs in the software as far as I'm aware. It runs and the update runs perfectly, especially on my iPhone 12. But I'm looking forward to iOS 26, And also yesterday, Apple re-released iOS 26 Beta 1, the revised build. And I did make a video on that update, even though I wasn't running the initial beta. Even if I'm not running the beta, I am still going to make videos on iOS 26, but I will be running the beta. I am going to have either the developer beta 2 or public beta installed. At some point, you guys are going to see iOS 26. Hopefully, you guys won't have to wait till September, for me anyway, to install iOS 26. Comment down below if you're running iOS 26 Developer Beta 1. And if you are, how is the experience running for you? I myself am not running it as I don't have another device to test it on. And as I currently have my iPhone 12 as my main device, I am not going to put the beta on my iPhone right now without having a secondary device to test it on. But if you are running the beta, comment down below, how is the experience of iOS 26, and what do you think of the new features where you can expand the time on the lock screen, and you also have backgrounds within iMessage, a new games app, as well as a new preview app, and also what do you think of the new liquid glass design that Apple has implemented in iOS 26? Personally, I think this is by far the best update. Without a doubt, I personally love this update, and I can't wait to install the public beta. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and there's a little bit of lag. My name is Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.